Watch this.
Police arrested 2 men in Caldwell over the weekend for firing a gun more than 24 times. That, by itself, might get your attention. But wait till you hear how they caught them.
My family's all here, and just everybody, all the teachers are all lined up for us, so it's a nice ceremony to have, I think.
It's graduation week across the Treasure Valley, with thousands of high school seniors getting their diplomas. However, just 4 years ago, graduates and their families getting together, that was out of the question. A look back at a walk across the stage done a little differently. Once again, the cost of gas in Idaho is hovering around $4 a gallon. But how does that compare to the earlier decades, heading into the holiday weekend? We don't usually cover a whole lot of crime here on the 208, but we still see the statements and press releases sent out by law enforcement when something does happen and someone ends up in custody. They send them into the newsroom. Normally, we let those go to the other newscasts, but something caught our attention over the weekend from Caldwell, where there was a shooting. It started out rather benign, the statement that is, with the police department's laser focus on serious and violent crime. They started out, and then they arrested 2 men for that shooting. Caldwell police also say they were drinking. But the part that caught our eye is that 4th paragraph. Based on the precisely accurate gunshot technology, officers were able to locate a vehicle and 2 suspects connected to the shooting. Gunshot technology. If you're thinking what we're thinking, like, what is that? Apparently, there are new sensors scattered around the city, hidden in plain sight. And they have been for months. Here's Andrew Bartline.
A quiet Caldwell neighborhood quickly collected a weekend police presence. Caldwell cops found 26 bullet casings, leading to 2 suspects, tipped off only by a new beacon on the block. It's called Raven, but it mostly resembles a solar panel.
These officers in patrol are getting the alerts right on their work cell phone.
And Captain Robert Rosen,
it takes the guesswork right out of it.
He can't get enough of them.
They're strategically placed throughout the city. We looked at data indicating where gunshots are typically fired, where people are shot.
They're from a company called Flock, and Caldwell's the first in the Gem State to buy and install the gunshot detector system, all recorded in real time.
Yeah, someone needs to listen to this.
And relayed directly to the officers. A continuous tumbling.
Police officers know that's gunfire.
Like a washing machine.
Giveaway.
Which in turn cuts down on response time and even initiates a response at all.
And I'm not even certain that we had a call from a community member about this. I believe this was all generated from the Flock system. We've had success with it leading up. This is probably the best case we've had thus far. Our officers working overnight went right to the area, and they actually heard additional gunshots being fired while on scene. We removed the human element, or at least a piece of that, from the response time there. You know, in policing these days, resources are thin. Staffing needs are increasing. The call volume is increasing, and we are looking at innovative ways to increase that public safety response that we have in the community.
But not everyone in the community is totally welcoming to the idea. They question if this is overstepping and public surveillance. The city installed them 6 months ago, and they've been up front with the public in meetings and outreach. Though all 4 neighbors I talked to knew close to nothing about the alleyway detector, they also liked it, but declined to comment.
This isn't surveillance. This is simply an audio file that's sent over to the police department containing gunshots. They're not retained. It's not saved and examined.
Because the detectors only start busting a move once the public's popping caps. It's only got a 5-second memory.
Unless there's a gunshot fired.
Which CPD hopes is short enough to keep Caldwellians from turning the page to Orwellian.
And we hope and we will prove to the community that it's a legitimate purpose.
Fireworks can be a point of confusion. Firecrackers, or if you're trying to get in trouble, those M80s, that can register as gunfire on these. 4th of July, then, should be fun this year for the Caldwell Police Department, but fireworks are also illegal in Idaho, so that's not exactly what they're going after with these.
Right.
That might be something they come across on accident. Really, the focus is using it what it is for, which is people firing guns in neighborhoods around the city. Really shouldn't be doing that for any reason.
Right.
So that helps them detect it quickly and knock it down.
So they have that 5-second memory, but they're able to pull that audio and hold it and use that, right?
It's like a rolling 5 seconds. So 5 seconds ago got deleted. But if a gunshot goes off, then it's going to record from then on.
Okay. So not surveillance, but just capturing what happened, and if something significant happened in those 5 seconds,
Yeah.
that's when they alert police.
Pretty much.
Thanks, Andrew.
And
That's
you brought up a
interesting.
point I
Yes.
want to bring up. You said you thought we were going with Caldwellers.
Yeah, I thought we were going with
Caldwellian rhymes with Orwellian.
It does.
So I don't want that slander.
So we'll go with 2. We got 2 choices for those that live
All
in
right.
Caldwell.
We can move
Caldwellers
on
or
now.
Caldwellians?
They're both good.
Thanks, Andrew. All right, the May primary is tomorrow, but thousands of you do not have to worry about the possibility of waiting in line at the end of the day or getting in before the polls close, or around dinner time, I should say. Early voting numbers from Ada County just came out this afternoon. You can see those stats on your screen. See those big bars there? A lot of you showed up to Meridian City Hall and Ada County Elections Office. And as you can see, more than 7,600 people made your decisions on state legislators, county commissioners, precinct committee members, and judges. That big bar on the bottom, well, that tells you that, well, most of you between the ages of 60 and 74 went to the polls early. It's not a lot compared to the nearly 260,000 registered voters in Idaho's most populous county. And those numbers, they're both down from 2022 and 2020, the May primary elections of those years. Again, 45% between the ages of 60 and 74, 75% are affiliated with the Republican Party, and the most popular day to vote early by far, that'd be Friday between 10 and 2. As for the absentee ballots, more than 22,000 of those were issued, with only 11,000 returned so far. If you're still holding on to your absentee ballot, make sure you drop it off at a ballot drop box. That's usually at your county clerk's office, the election office there. Make sure you do that by 8 o'clock tomorrow night. By 9 p.m., we are going to get totals into the newsroom and across the state as the polls close in the northern part. So stay tuned to ktvb.com and our entire election coverage tomorrow night on the news at 10. Okay, so your only option now, other than dropping off that absentee ballot at your local elections office, is to head to the polls in person. Early birds, you can get in right at the crack of 8 a.m. We have what else you need to know about Idaho's primary election. Plus, there's a chance your posse's been on Broadway, keeping one Boise bar serving for nearly 3 decades. Here's Abby Davis with the 411.
2 of Chad Daybell's children took the stand today, the first witnesses called by his defense attorney. Chad is on trial for allegedly murdering his wife of nearly 30 years, Tammy, and his current wife Lori's children, JJ and Tylee. Dozens of people showed up to the courthouse. One couple drove 5 hours from Utah just to watch the defense's case in person.
It was really striking, though, to see the son testify, and he got very emotional, and that was touching. It's so fascinating, the mix of LDS theology with this kind of bizarre twist is really quite fascinating, and especially that it ends in deaths. It's just like, wow, this is really interesting stuff.
Polls open tomorrow morning for the Idaho primary election. Several issues are on the ballot, including congressional seats, school bonds and levies, and county offices. You can vote at the polls tomorrow from 8 in the morning until 8 at night. Voters need to bring a valid form of photo ID. You can find more information about the election on our website, ktvb.com. 2 days later, on May 23rd, the Idaho Democratic Party will host its caucus. All registered Democratic and unaffiliated voters who haven't participated in another party's presidential nomination process are invited. The party will choose Idaho's Democratic presidential nominee and elect delegates to the Idaho Democratic State Convention. The Republican Party held its caucus in March. A local restaurant and brewery is celebrating 28 years in the Treasure Valley. For the occasion, the Ram is doing a special until they close tonight. You can get the Ram Classic Cheeseburger and Ram Chips for $1.95 at its location on Park Boulevard in Boise. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Abby Davis.
Well, high school comes to a close for thousands of high school seniors starting this week with the hope of turning the page on a new and possibly adult chapter of their lives. Yes, commencement ceremonies in Boise started last week. They're going to continue this evening with Boise high school seniors saying goodbye. But 4 years ago, it was a different kind of celebration for those graduates and their families, specifically at Capitol High School. We're going to take a look back on a time not so long ago, which, well, I guess that chapter, or turning the page on a new chapter, meant you had to kind of close your high school career on something that really wasn't a whole lot of fun, the pandemic. And when walking across the stage to get your diploma meant you had to first drive up and get out of the car.
Woohoo! Congratulations!
At Capitol High School, on a brisk, breezy Monday in mid-May, the end of senior year starts in the parking lot.
This is totally new, yeah.
It's a graduation ceremony that many thought would never happen.
No.
When COVID-19 caused the schools to close a couple of months ago, a wave of senior celebrations got washed away in the wake.
That's been 65 days of quarantine, preparing for AP tests.
Not the senior year you were hoping for.
No.
But Boise School District wasn't about to send off their seniors without a turn of the tassel. And the teachers, they weren't going to miss it either.
Because we've watched them cry. We've seen all the stresses they've gone through. We want them to know how proud we are of them and for them to feel that.
Which is why Mrs. Trunnell,
I mean, this is 12 years that they've been waiting for this.
Mrs. Jolly, and Mrs. Fenwick will stay out here for 12 hours.
I love Gwen.
Cheering on their kids.
Looks like with the cars that the kids are having fun with it. They've got balloons and all sorts of stuff. They're in their hats, they're in their caps and gowns, so I think they're trying to make the most out of it.
By making a lot less of it. You just drive up, you get out, you walk in, you walk across, you walk out, and you're a graduate. Not a lot of pomp, considering the circumstances. Are you bummed you didn't get the big ceremony?
Not really. My family's all here, and just everybody, all the teachers are all lined up for us, so it's a nice ceremony to have, I think.
Like, okay, I'm surprised we got a graduation. Like, I was really sad that everything got canceled. I'm just glad that the school was able to do something like this, and the fact that my family got to see me still walk, and they still got to cheer, and it was just amazing.
Still amazing, and still kind of weird, but at least
This is fun. It's different.
it's something.
I'm just glad we're able to do something for them.
The class of 2020.
Oh, it'll be different, but it's a memory.
Nah, the class of COVID-19.
There's nothing wrong with having a different memory.
Well, that class of 2020 is probably now the class of 2024 when it comes to graduating college. So if they are, congratulations to all of them. And if you're driving around Broadway or Boise State this week, be aware because there are a lot of graduations, including Capitals, which will be held at Extra Mile Arena on the Boise State campus. Okay, so a lot of state titles were handed out this weekend when it comes to baseball, softball, track, all that kind of stuff. But then we got this text message from Steve in Eagle, who wrote, just like the Eagle Band percussion title you mentioned, I hope the national championship won by the Eagle girls rugby team this weekend in Wisconsin will get a shout out. Okay, here's a shout out. Just one weekend after winning the Idaho State Championship, they won the high school girls 15's Division I national championship. Again, over the weekend in Wisconsin. They weren't the only team from Idaho representing that either. Rival Meridian High School finished third place. So a strong showing by the Gem State. But shout out to the Eagle girls rugby team.
Over the next 10 days, the nighttime lows will go something like this. This is what we're looking at. Some 40s, but also some 50s. And by the time we get to the end of next week, look at this. Yeah, temperatures are going to soar. They're going to be into the mid 50s. And let me show you the high temperatures. Now, not bad tomorrow, 71. Winds will be about 15 to 20 miles an hour. Not quite like some of those gusts up to 36 miles an hour today. See, by Friday, we're 72. We still stay a little unsettled through here, but then temperatures start coming up next week. There you go. Some of those temperatures are getting pretty close to 90 degrees. Now that's next week, okay? 67 was the high today. It certainly wasn't today. As you look at some of the chills around the area, 57 degrees for the high in Twin Falls. And wind gusts, well, we have had some reports of winds above 40 miles an hour just for brief periods. But as you look at this, the winds, real strong wind gusts were in the mid 30 mile an hour range, 35, 36 miles an hour. Tonight coming in from the north, it's all coming in from the north. You see some of these light showers. We had one earlier this afternoon. It's only a trace. That's a possibility. Embedded in that are a few light thunderstorms from time to time. So we just have that in the forecast for this evening. Now coming up on Wednesday, it's a first alert weather day as you look out here to the west, meaning that there's going to be a major change in our weather. We've already had one, so we've got another one that's going to be coming into the area. And this is what it's going to do. The rain for tonight isn't much. Here it is through Tuesday night. Now let's continue through Tuesday. Okay, there we go. There's 1:30. And then let's get into Wednesday. Okay, late Tuesday night into Wednesday, there's a difference right through there. Now there's the amount of rain. You see about 1/4 of an inch, some spots even a little bit more than that. Eventually it's going to be working its way toward the Twin Falls area. So let's take a look at the 7-day forecast. There's the first alert weather day. There could even be a thunderstorm, some strong gusty winds. So it is a change. And the likelihood is you won't be able to do the things outside that you normally would do. So we want to make that stand out. For tomorrow, it's breezy and 70. Thursday, some showers are possible in the morning, but it starts to decrease. Still some winds off and on until we get to next week, and then it really starts to warm up.
Oh, well, the temperatures may not, I don't know, they might not go the way we want them to go this weekend. But here we are, a work week away from the Memorial Day holiday. And there are historically two factors when it comes to who's hitting the road this weekend. That'd be the weather, as Rick just told you, and gas prices. This year, according to Gas Buddy, Idaho drivers are paying an average of $3.78 a gallon. And that may seem like a lot, but it's better than it was last week when it was 5 cents higher and nearly 13 cents lower than last month. But higher by about 5 cents a gallon of what we were paying this time last year. And you might think $3.78, that's highway robbery. And it is, but we were paying nearly that last year at this time, and that would be a steal compared to what we were paying just 2 years ago at $4.60 a gallon as we worked our way to Idaho's highest price ever for a gallon of gas. That'd be $5.25 in July of that year. Remember the days of $2 a gallon? You got to go back to the early days of the pandemic for that in 2020 there on your screen. So here we are, again, getting a jump on the inevitable annual story of what will you pay to head out of town. When I say we've been tracking it for years, we're not selling you a bridge in Brooklyn or Boise for that matter. Okay, so what you would have heard in the story was a bunch of natural sound of gas pumps going into gas tanks and people complaining about the price of gas, but I'll just read it to you because there's no audio with that, and I'm sorry. But if we take it back to 25 years ago, back in 1999, before there were smartphones and even before, I guess, well, we turned the century, you're looking at gas that was $1.30 a gallon or a little bit less than that. But if you go about 5 years later, well, Econ 101 explained why a gallon of gas was $1.99. There was a limited supply and high demand, and that, of course, is the perfect recipe for higher prices at the pump. Plus, there was this conflict in Iraq that was making the world a little bit nervous about the gas supply, so gas prices were going up. By 2008, that conflict in Iraq was still a thing. We just entered the Great Recession, and that spawned, well, a great idea by a local radio station. Back then, we were covering a story of KISS FM. They were giving away gas for free on just one day, and boy, the cars were lined up, because at that point, we were paying about $2.49 a gallon, which is a lot. Well, at least it was back then. Okay, so that's why they did that as they went into holiday or Memorial Day weekend. Then a year later in 2009, gas prices actually went the other direction. They went down, which is why the number of holiday travelers went up that year, because we were paying about $2.28 a gallon, which is sort of the $3.75 that we were paying the year before. Then the following year that we have in this story, in 2010, there was actually a 7-cent drop over the past week, but it still was lower. Didn't mean, I should say, that it was lower than the year before. We're looking at $3.02 a gallon in 2010. What we would give for $3 a gallon these days, right? But of course, all of the gas station attendants we spoke with over the years, they all took the brunt of all of your blames, even though it really wasn't their fault. So cut them a little slack as you get your gas going into this holiday weekend. So here you go. If you're going to fill up your truck, your car, your RV, your four-wheeler, whatever, prepare to pay the second highest price ever for a gallon of regular unleaded that you've ever paid in the state of Idaho. $3.78 a gallon, as they said. And that's on average, based on the survey of 802 stations across the Gem State. Who knows, though? You happen to see a KTVB reporter out there while you're dropping nearly $70 to fill up your tank of gas in your truck. Just don't take your anger out on them. All right, we got some questions and some comments, but we're going to start with the questions today because I love when we get some of these that I can't answer in the middle of the show that I figured out. This one from Lorene, who asked, I'm a Democrat, have turned in my absentee ballot. Is there any reason for me to attend the caucus, which is scheduled for Thursday, the Democratic caucus? It's called the Presidential Caucus. If you notice on your absentee ballot, there was no place for you to mark your presidential selection. That is what is happening on Thursday. That's when the Democratic Party of Idaho is going to pick who they want to represent them for the president, as president, I should say, for that campaign. So keep that in mind. That is, yes, there's a reason for you to attend the caucus on Thursday if you want a voice in picking the presidential candidate from Idaho. Greg in Caldwell says, can I drop my absentee ballot at a polling location tomorrow? Actually, no, you're supposed to drop it off at an elections office or your county clerk's office because the people that are there at the polls don't have a place to put that in. Your absentee ballot, a safety box to put that in. They want it in a drop box at a county clerk's office or a local election office, but you have to take it by hand, no time to mail it anymore, so keep that in mind. For the 2-8, seems like Andrew gets all the cool stories lately, like the flock story today. Good job. That's Rob Morin. Yeah, he does. He digs them up, finds them, and tells them very well, I must say. So we enjoy listening to Andrew tell his stories and, of course, gets right to the point. Some other fans today telling us how Andrew is good at his job. We know this. He is really good. You know what I was thinking, Dave and Eagle? This same thing. Gunshot detectors, targets, right? Is that a thing? Could be. Well, I'm sure they thought of that, but that's one of the first things I thought of as well. Okay, I don't know who sent this in, but we've got a couple of these. I think this one here there's another one in here. Yep, Matt in Caldwell also said Caldwellites, not Caldwellians or Caldwellers. Caldwellites? What about Meridianites? Can they be the same? Caldwellers or Caldwellians? You decide.